streaming.
Streaming and recording.
All right, good. Thank you very much. Johnson, can you confirm that we have quorum? Good morning, yes, we have quorum. Last meeting of the Subcabinet was in February. The February meeting was recorded, and that recording is available on the Maryland Center for School Safety website. As such, there are no meetings, there are no minutes to be approved. Are there any additions to today's agenda, which you can see on the screen, or you have in front of you? Additions? Is there a motion then, please, to approve the agenda? Thank you. Do we have a second? Second. All in favor? Abstentions? Motion passes. The agenda for today is approved. So, Brian.
Great, thank you so much. So the first thing we're going to talk about in the agenda are some of the accomplishments over the last school year, mainly. Although I will say, as you all know, especially those who have been with us since 2018, the team has been working diligently on all of the assignments, projects, new initiatives, great ideas that have come up over the last 6.5 years. So to kick it off, I want to talk a little bit about the SRO, School Resource Officer, School Security Employee Training Academy. So as you all know, we kicked that training off in 2019. It was the first of its kind in Maryland. It's a mandated training for all school resource officers and security employees in the state of Maryland. It's a training that was developed by our team in partnership with quite a few subject matter experts. So we've been running this training again since 2019. To date, since 2019, we've trained over 1,800, I think is the correct number now, over 1,800 SROs and school security employees in the last 5.5 years. So we're coming up on 5 years. This year, we've trained 54 school resource officers and 118 school security employees. I will tell you, we are right in the middle of an SRO training right now. I'm in this room out in Hagerstown, and so that number will increase after today, or after I should say this week. In addition, so you know the sort of way we've been doing the SRO training prior to this year was we took the training and then that was it. Because of course we don't need any additional professional development year after year. That is not true. We recognize that that is not true. So the team put together some in-service training for SROs and SSCs that they can take again every year. They modify that in-service training each year, update content that's relevant to that particular year. So if there's changes in school law or anything else that may impact their work inside the school. So I'm incredibly proud and pleased to tell you that this year, and I actually think the number is even higher now, they have trained over 1,229 individuals in service training this year. And as I'd like to remind everyone, the coordination of that training for the over 1,200 individuals is 2 people. So really fantastic work, really impressive training team that we have. All the work that they do, they're incredibly dedicated to ensuring that our school resource officers and security employees in the state receive the best training there is. And I'll even highlight the fact that this week we were contacted by another state, so Minnesota and West Virginia have both reached out as they're developing a similar model training in their states, and they have reached out to us to provide them some technical assistance and expertise as they develop their training. Really exciting. This year we're implementing our SRO of the Year award. So we pulled together some members of our advisory board, as well as our staff. And so at our Prepare 2025 conference, those of you who were able to attend, and I hope all of you will, we'll be able to see the SRO of the training, SRO of the year award and recognition for that. So we're very excited. We had quite a few applicants or applications submitted, so we're very excited this year. And we're going to continue that year after year at the conference. As you all know, July 16th and 17th, so mark the calendars, is our Prepare 2025 conference. So this year we have quite a bit of content that's going to be presented. Those of you that have been with us in the past, there's a really nice mix of our comprehensive layered approach to school safety, which is sort of physical security efforts, preparedness efforts, personal connections, and culture and climate within the school. So it's a really nice broad spectrum of content that we'll have again this year. So we're very excited. I believe, and I don't want to speak for Jessica, but I believe we are pretty close to even maxing out our registrations. I think 50 to 100 are being maxed out of our registrations already for July. So very excited. We're looking forward to it. Next. So last year, 2024 legislative session, House Bill 416 passed. I think we've talked about some of the updates from that. I will tell you that all of the statutory requirements of House Bill 416 have been met. So I'm incredibly proud of the team and the work that they've done to get us to that point. So the first piece is the best practice guidelines for active assailant emergency preparedness in both training and exercises. We published that in October of last year. We really appreciate the partnership with the Department of Education, the Department of Disabilities in publishing this document. The second half of the requirement for the law was the partnership with the Institute of Higher Education. So the partnership partnered with the University of Maryland's National Center for School Mental Health. So really fantastic partnership with Dr. Knox and her team to at least number one, start our literature review. So she did a lot of, her and her team did a lot of review of existing research and literature related to active assailant and lockdown drills. We've published that on our website as well. They're continuing to do that research, and they have implemented the study that we talked to you all about in February. So there is a survey that goes out following the lockdown drill in every public school in the state. The survey can be completed by students, parents, staff, as well as administrators. And that survey data is collected by the National Center, and they'll analyze that data. Beginning next year, we'll be able to share with you some of the information we received from that, those surveys and that study. Where that information will be used is to help us if we have to make any changes or improvements or updates to our guidelines, as well as it will inform any changes for the Department of Education's emergency planning guidelines, as well as drill regulations. So very excited about all of that. The last piece of House Bill 416 was the Safe Firearm Storage Guide. Really grateful for the partnership with the state police. So thank you, Colonel. We were able to publish this safe storage guide for firearms. This is really a one-page front and back side document that school systems can share with parents at the beginning of every school year. Again, all of our materials, the review and the research and the study will go into making updates to the firearm storage guide every year as well. Any questions on 416? It was a lot of work, and really what I call less than a year. So we got most of it done in October, so very impressive. We couldn't have done it without the partnership with the board of departments. Next up, so these are just Some quick updates on some of our major programs and projects. As you know, we started conducting the statewide tabletop exercises in May of last year. We conducted in August one with our non-public special education facilities that was incredibly successful. And in October, and I think it ended up being early March because of weather, we conducted 2 with our public school partners. So we're excited to continue those programs. We're going to continue to do 1 tabletop exercise for non-public special education facilities every year, and 2 for our public schools. So again, very well received, and we've been incredibly grateful at the participation and feedback because we believe the ability to get better. I will say that all of our statewide tabletop exercises, we take all of those materials and then post them on our website after the fact, so that any school that can't participate or maybe isn't a public school, maybe it's a private school, they can just take that content and then conduct their own. We've also had, Ron and Dino's, some of their team have gone out and supported for schools that couldn't participate in the statewide exercise and conducted those exercises for them within their jurisdiction. So very well received. We mentioned in February that the Department of Education and our office have partnered to relaunch Handle with Care. So again, very proud of that. We've got the website is completely back up and running. The data is starting to be recollected. And my hope is, as we get into the next school year, we'll be able to talk to you about the data that's coming in. A really great partnership here with the continual program that's so important for schools. This year, Dino led the implementation and execution of a school safety leadership academy pilot. So we had 24 participants of school leaders. We let it be open to public, non-public special education as well as private schools. And it's intended to, the intended audience is school leaders, right? So the school administrators coming in and getting some of that very needed and requested school safety training. So we ran it as a 3-day course, not right after each other, but we separated it into 3 separate months and allowed those administrators to learn from our subject matter experts within the agency on the critical pieces that can help keep their schools safe. So evaluations were really good. We've got some really great feedback on how to improve that program, but we're incredibly proud and excited about that. Behavioral threat assessment work. We continue our behavioral threat assessment work. We've been doing a lot of, Drew and Kim have doing a lot of technical assistance for some of our public school systems. We've created new training materials. Drew's developed quite a handful at least of tabletop exercises for behavioral threat assessment teams. We've been partnering with other organizations. We were brought in recently, married to the consortium. And so we're very excited to be able to present to the grantees there relative to behavioral threat assessment. So again, a lot of work being done there. And as always, Safe Schools Maryland is still available statewide. Again, it's a free resource for public, private, and non-public special education facilities in the state. So although that is a lot of good work by the team, it doesn't include all of the other work that still happens every day. So all of our grants, Gifty and Barbara, all the fantastic work that they do, Jessica and Chalet, all the administrative work that continues to happen, all of the other training you're going to hear later today from Ron about some of the work he does and his team does. And so just again, I want to recognize the incredible work that this really fantastic team does. Happy to answer any questions about all of this or anything else you may have heard about. or interested.
I don't have a question. I just want to, I'm always coming to your meetings and I'm so impressed with what all the work that you've accomplished. And that's not really a credit to you and your leadership and the team, but organization, trainings, it's that are benefiting the schools and the school systems and the students and the families is wonderful. And no wonder other states, well, they should. I remember when schools did not have SROs, and I was lucky to be a principal at the time. When it started, and the value, but the training that goes along. Without the training, successful. So I'm impressed also that, like you said, additional training is always of value and refreshing, and our skills up to date. So goes to you and your team. All work to do. So just want to echo tremendous work for you, to you and your team. A couple of questions going back to the first slide, and you don't need to go back to it. But, I love the idea of answer training. Is this mandatory or volunteer?
No, it's mandatory. So we actually included it within our regulations. So it covers both the requirement that they participate. So the law requires them to participate in the training academy, and then our regulations further define the requirement that they have 4 hours of in-service.
Thank you for including finding some of these things. Cecilia has been really very honored to be included. And then on the last slide, when we talked about, and I've probably asked this question before, but on the statewide tabletop. First of all, thank you for including the non-public special education. We really appreciate that. How are the School for the Deaf and the School for the Blind exercises? Are they regionally included?
So they're part of the non-public special education group. Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. So they're invited to those, and actually School for the Deaf participated in the one in August.
Thank you so much.
Absolutely.
Good, thank you very much. So we'll go on to the subcabinet. And your bylaw review. So you shared a copy of the subcabinet bylaws with us prior to the meeting. Are there any motions for changes or modifications to our bylaws? Questions related to that? If there are no changes requested, then the bylaws stand as written. And any changes require a motion. It's not a discussion, but other than other. Yes. Sure. So legislative session, we're very involved.
Yes.
So we'll wrap up.
Yeah, so I'm going to focus this really on one key piece of legislation that passed this year. None of the others that we were monitoring that directly impact our office, although we're in partnership with MSD on several initiatives. This one is going to be the biggest impact to our agency. Similar to 416, it's going to be a lot of work and a very short turnaround. But hopeful that we will meet the requirements of the statute. So House Bill 782, which is a study on detecting deadly weapons in public middle and high schools. So that's the title. But in short, it's a requirement for our office to study how best to detect deadly weapons, first off. And then second, have schools report that detection of weapons to law enforcement. It's going to require us to evaluate school systems' current security infrastructure through meetings. So we're going to have to meet with each of the 24 LEAs. We're going to have to assess their physical and technological security measures, and then identify any gaps that they have that may require improvement. Next slide. So in addition to, so this first sentence here is the one that we're still not 100% sure what it means. So in addition to studying weapons detection systems, it's going to require us to do a comprehensive evaluation of current security infrastructure, which is frankly pretty broad. So we're going to have to do our best to try to sort of narrow the scope a little bit there for anything that potentially directly touches weapons detection systems versus just general every security infrastructure within a school system. So that's sort of the first part, right? So what is happening now? What is the weapons detection system landscape look like now within our public schools and Maryland, middle and high schools? The second half is a review of existing technology. So it does not require us to do an evaluation or testing any equipment. It is literally just us. What are the widely accepted methods being used, whether it's throughout the state or throughout the nation, and then look at sort of their feasibility, right? What's the feasibility of being able to use them in schools? How might they be better adapted to provide better detection and faster reporting? How the software integrates, right? So if it's a technology that has software, how does that software integrate with existing systems that they have? And then these last two bullets, which are also potentially going to be a little challenging for us to articulate, is how there could be an increase in camera usage and then a recommendation of placement, which I think is, there are already some standards that exist for that. The second is an increased use of metal detectors. It does not specifically say in that part of statute, weapons detection systems. It specifically says metal detectors. So again, we're going to have to sort of look at this as we develop this report. And then the last piece is the gathering of use for efficacy, bias, data ownership, privacy, scope of use, risk management. In short, it's going to be a pretty heavy lift, sort of broken it up to some work groups, one focused mainly on really the LEA, what the school systems are doing, and the other on the technology itself. You do have 2 years to do this study. So the first year we have a report due in December of this year, which we're going to focus mainly on the local education agency assessment or evaluation. And then the second is due in December of 2026. And the second year will focus mainly on that second piece, the widely accepted other technology that's out there. We've communicated with all 24 of the LEAs, so we have sent information, sent some questions, had a couple of work session calls with them to sort of find out what are their biggest concerns about this, what are their, what information can they already provide us. So we're going to be doing some pre-surveys with them, and then some one-on-one meetings with them to sort of gather as much information as we can. So you'll hear more about this in the coming year, actually 2 years, as we get through that. The one good thing I will say, so when this was originally written, it was not like this completely, and we formed a really good relationship with the chair, who was open to some of our suggestions, not all of our suggestions, but some of our suggestions. So it has been modified, so we're very happy about that. I will say that the one piece that they did take from us is to provide protections of any of the specific security infrastructure or security specific information to the LEAs to not be included. So any of that information is protected from public disclosure, which of course we don't. Any questions?
Sure. The LEAs, do we know that you have this time?
It is less than half.
All schools, high schools?
Yes. Mainly high school and middle school. I'm not aware of any elementary school this week. They just implemented this year. So the only question I have for the subcabinet is, are there individuals from either technical expertise or operational expertise of these weapons detection systems that you might recommend that we speak with as we work through both the LEA reviews as well as technology? And if you have those, then share those with us. We'll connect with those individuals.
Kate? Just want to point out, I'm working with from IEC currently on some guidelines, security guidelines for schools. And first one up, working on is security vestibules, which falls into that first paragraph here. So we're including some information from the survey with the first piece we do, probably wind up in that.
So the capital project managers with the IEC, we generally look at security related topics. And there's a capital project development director for the IEC. She's very knowledgeable.
This is really technical.
Yes.
MS.
Yes.
But
it's going to be and there, yeah, and some of the concerns that the local school systems brought out are valid. Right, is the first thing they said is, does this mean we have to then put weapons detection systems in our schools if we don't currently have them? And our answer to date has been no, because that's not how this is written. It doesn't provide additional funding to do it. It doesn't provide additional funding to do the study either. But it doesn't give additional funding to implement any of the systems or make any of these changes. So really, it's going to be on us, working very closely with them and some of the other subject matter experts we've reached out to identify what's going to be the most important pieces to this.
But I think it's always a challenge when for legislation when the initial report is December of the same year, 25. So that's also going to be a challenge. When you work backwards, you always have to get good. So obviously. All right, if there are no more questions, we will go on to fiscal FY26, fiscal and grants update.
Thank you. Good morning. So I just wanted to provide the subcabinet overview of our budget. Can you go to the next slide, please? So the FY25 working budget, 3.5, it's just when you look at the FY26 governor's allowance, it's only about $200,000 more, which of course is the cooler adjustment in contractual services. So MCSS have contractual agreements with NCAP, of course, for our shared services, and we have an existing contract with them. Those two make up a big chunk of that $840,000 budget that you see on the FY26 under the FY26 allowance. We also have some smaller contracts with the universities, and another part of that 840 is primarily the speaker fees for our prepared conference, which we do have contracts in place for speakers for the FY20, well, I said FY, but for the 2025 prepared conference, and we will be putting those requisitions in as soon as the fiscal year begins. So it's not a huge increase in terms of our 26 allowance. Everything else, if you look at the different categories, it is pretty much the same from 25 working budget to the 26 allowance. Next slide. Right, so this chart just, shows you the breakdown. You obviously see that the salaries are a big chunk. 70% of our budget is operational budget is salaries, followed by the contractual agreements that I mentioned, and everything else is 1 or 2%, or even less than 1% in some cases. So again, not a big change year over year. Just we wanted to provide that brief update to Subcabinet. Any questions on the operational budget? So moving on, similar to the operational budget, there's not really a big change in our grants budget. The SRO grant is still $10 million for FY26. The crimes is still $3 million for FY26. The Safe Schools Fund grant, which is the one that we bring the applications to the Subcabinet for review and approval, is still $600,000, which will be allocated the same way, $25,000 per LEA. And there is a fourth grant in our portfolio for FY26, which is the school facility mapping grant. To that, I believe I passed around the memo to the Subcabinet because we have some action items. Secretary of the We have some action items that we would like the Subcabinet to consider. So first thing, the purpose of the action item request is to grant MCSS. Can you please go to the next slide? One more. So the purpose is to request the Subcabinet's approval to allow MCSS to accept, review, and approve grant applications from LEAs for the school facility mapping grant. So a little background. In 2024, Senate Bill 540 and House Bill 472 were enacted, and these two bills established the school mapping data grant program, also referred to as the school facility mapping grant. The purpose of the grant is to provide funding to local school systems for the development of digital school facility mapping facility maps to assist first responders in responding to emergencies at a school. The FY26 legislative budget includes a $3 million appropriation to support this grant. It's important to say that when this bill was passed, we did not have any funding. There were no funding mandates, so this $3 million was part of our budget submission last year, which has been approved so that we are able to administer this grant in FY26. So the action items for the Subcabinet, we have 3 different requests for you. First one is to authorize the allocation of $50,000 to each school system with up to 25 schools. We currently have 10 local school systems that have 25 or fewer schools within their jurisdiction. Second request is to authorize MCSS to allocate $1,934.98 per school to school systems with more than 25 schools. We have about 14 local school systems that have 25 or more schools within their jurisdiction. And the last request is to authorize MCSS to accept, review, and approve the fiscal year 26 school facility mapping grant applications. And with that, it's back to you. If you have any questions, if not, let's subcabinet vote on this action item.
So first, I guess, is there a motion to accept?
I wasn't sure if I should make the motion.
And if you are making the motion, if you could just state your name so that the record is clear as to who is making the motion and who is seconding the motion.
Is there, excuse me, a motion to move on the action items?
And if there is anyone who'd like to take the action one at a time, if you don't feel comfortable, if any member doesn't feel comfortable with voting on all three actions at the same time, they can be separated one action at a time.
Request to take them one action at a time. No, we have a couple folks online. Without a request to take them one at a time, we'll take them as a bundle, and they are on the front of us. So if someone wants to make that motion to just explain what items that you're making a motion on.
I'll bring you Davis. I would like to make a motion to approve item 1, 2, and 3.
Is there a second? Are there any questions? All right.
Question. So when does the application process start?
Right, so we are targeting July as the open application period. One of the requirements for the bill was for MCSS to work with the IEC to establish guidelines for what the mapping facility should have. So I know that there is a draft that has been worked on and the final document. And so once we have the final version, then we will the notification of funding available. So we are targeting July of this year, and our intention is to keep the application open as long as we do for the Safe Schools Fund, which is about 18 months. So from July, the performance period would be July 1, 2025 to December 26.
I have a question. So is your recommendation, excuse me, your recommendation and giving the amount of money, $50,000, you feel will enable the LEAs to do the work that's identified?
Yes, so two folds in my answer to that. Jan here works with the IEC unit. And so one of the discussions that we've had is that based on the average cost of what it would take for each school, we agreed that around $2,000 is what the cost will be per school. One of the other benefits that we discussed is that the law only requires high schools, right, and middle schools. And middle schools. But the funding allows the school system to be able to use a facility mapping for their elementary schools as well. Now the $50,000, we came up with that because the smaller school systems, if we were to just go by, the number of schools within the jurisdiction and the overall number of schools, they will end up with fairly minimal amount compared to the larger school systems. So after just considering all of those factors, we determined that it was better allocate $50,000 for school systems with less than 25 schools, and every other person gets the 1934 per school, which allows them to get a little bit more, up to 140 for the largest.
Okay. But it's still reimbursed.
Yeah, it is still reimbursed.
Any further questions? Yeah, and all in favor, say aye. Right, so up on the screen in front of you are our future meeting dates. Please note that they are alternate between in-person and virtual. Calendars. And, Tuesday, October 14th.
Because of the grants, so we find that we typically don't get all the grant applications in for your August meeting, so we don't overwhelm you with November, because there's also the annual report to review, as well as some other documents that we do approve. Sometimes we need to review.
Sure. I got about that. And are there any changes or modifications needed for our upcoming meeting dates? I don't think we voted. We're good with this. We're doing. Okay, so the next is the review of the Open Meeting Act trained members designation. The law requires that at least one member of a public board must complete the Open Meetings Act training. Colonel Butler and Davis have completed the training. And the question, I think, is have any other members completed the Open Meeting Act training? Hear of anyone, so as required under general provision law, Article 3-213, the subcabinet designates Colonel Butler and Ms. Davis as the Open Meetings Act trained members.
Sounds good.
Sounds good. There you go.
Thank you, Colonel.
Thank you, Colonel.
I just realized you all hadn't heard my voice all morning. I am here.
Yeah, hi. Okay, so next I'm going to read a statement that will allow the subcabinet to go into a closed session. The subcabinet will not be returning to the open session following the closed session pursuant to Article 3-30510. The general provisions article of the annotated Code of Maryland, the subcabinet will adjourn to a closed session to discuss the following. 1, information that the board has determined that if discussed publicly would constitute a risk to the public or to public security, and information regarding the development and implementation of emergency plans. So, question, do I have a motion to go into closed session?
Motion to go into closed session.
Do you have a second?
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor, say aye. Opposed? So the public can email oppositions and to admin.school.safety@maryland.gov. Anyone abstaining?
Objections must be immediately emailed to the address that is shown on the slide. We'll just have to take a couple of minutes to verify that there are no objections. We have an admin person. She'll let us know. Okay. 1 minute.
Just look for it.
I'm checking too. Yeah, just wait 2 minutes on the.
Our staff has indicated there have been no objections received via email.
Okay, thank you. Then the motion passes.
Yes.
Thank you. Subcabinet will adjourn directly from the closed session. So thank you all for being with us today, and we will see you next closed session.
Oh,